News, Life Unlimited.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. Florida is preparing for a major hurricane in 2 weeks. Milton is strengthening in the Gulf as it moves closer to the United States. It's expected to make landfall Wednesday as at least a Category 3 hurricane. Flood watches have been issued to 15 million residents across Florida through Thursday. Parts of the southeast are still cleaning up extensive damage from Hurricane Helene and its powerful storm surge. Today marks 1 year since the militant group Hamas launched the attack that killed 1,200 Israelis. Hundreds of others were captured as hostages. Since the start of the war, more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed. Israel is now at war with Hamas in Gaza and its ally Hezbollah in Lebanon. It has also vowed to strike Iran in response to a ballistic missile attack on Israel last week. Presidential nominees Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have just 29 days until the presidential election is held. The candidates have been traveling back and forth to a handful of swing states. This week, former President Donald Trump is taking part in in Florida, including a town hall with the Spanish television network Univision. Vice President Kamala Harris also appearing on Univision this week during a Las Vegas event. She surveyed damage from Hurricane Helene in North Carolina this weekend and is taking part in several TV and radio interviews this week. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
Good Monday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Had a great sunshine and some toasty temperatures out west. Highs are going to stay pretty hot once again in Los Angeles, middle and upper 80s, 109 in Phoenix. And we're going to be pretty comfortable, though, from the Great Lakes to the northeast with highs in the upper 60s, low 70s. We've got a cold front that's going to track through that's going to bring much cooler weather to the eastern half of the United States later in the week. Meanwhile, all eyes on Hurricane Milton set to make landfall later this week in Florida as a powerful Category 4 hurricane. We'll talk about its impacts in its latest track coming up in 10 minutes.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. Today is Monday, October 7th. Our top story, Florida prepares for its second major hurricane in 2 weeks. Milton is strengthening and expected to be at least a Category 3 hurricane by the time it makes landfall. Now here's a shot from over the weekend of a long line of cars in St. Petersburg trying to stock up on sandbags. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declaring a state of emergency for 51 counties. 15 million Floridians face flood warnings. School closures are in place across the projected path of the storm. We begin our team coverage as we keep an eye on Hurricane Milton. A top concern for many heading into the storm is the amount of debris still sitting curbside from Hurricane Helene. Governor Ron DeSantis has issued an executive order stating that all disaster debris management sites and landfills in the affected areas 24/7 drop-off. Our Angie Andrews joins us now from Treasure Island this morning. Angie.
Yes, good morning, Bree. So really all of the Tampa Bay area landfills, they're open 24/7, so that way people who have the ability to can just try to start getting their trash out of the areas, especially these beachside communities where really people's entire lives are sitting on the curb there. We're seeing 3 or 4 hour lines, even in those overnight hours. But I want to give you a look this morning. This is one of those things you have to see it to believe it. Just the mounds and mounds of people's possessions, their mattresses, parts of their homes, all piled up here. We are right in the heart of Treasure Island, of course, one of the beloved beach communities. And this is, of course, one of the reasons why Governor Ron DeSantis says it is an all deck situation with state resources. Take a listen.
All assets that can help with debris removal are being marshaled to help remove the debris. So if FDOT has dump trucks in Seminole County that can be used to help remove debris in the burial grounds of many, they're going to do that. We are using every resource at a disposal to help our local communities get the debris out.
And those heavily impacted counties, all doing things a little bit different, but everybody offering that 24/7 free access to dump sites in order to encourage people to go on out and bring all of their debris over there themselves if they can. Now, in Pinellas County, where those beachside communities are, they also hired additional public works teams to hit those unincorporated areas. And then in the city of Tampa, the mayor there says they've had a problem finding enough manpower. The city is looking for any licensed contractors that can haul debris and step in. They're calling tree trimming companies, private companies, really anyone they can think of to help in order to make this happen over the next 2 days. And of course, a situation like this is such a race against the clock. Really, it's just all day Monday and then all day Tuesday to try to get piles just like this out here, especially in our beachside communities, but also right in the heart of Tampa. They have a very similar problem going on. Now, the solid waste director said if stuff in front of your house doesn't get picked up in the next 2 days, do your best to put it inside an area. That way, of course, these don't turn into projectiles. Bree.
Angie Andrews, thank you very much. Spectrum meteorologist Ramel Carpenter joins us now. Ramel, another hurricane taking aim at Florida this morning.
Yeah, that's right, Bree. Good morning. And this is just a little over a week after Hurricane Helene made landfall as a powerful Category 4 hurricane right along the Big Bend of Florida. And now we're getting ready with Hurricane Milton. Right now in the far western Gulf of Mexico, just to the northwest of the Yucatan Peninsula, already starting to see that well-defined eye starting to poke out on the tropical satellite imagery. And unfortunately, this hurricane is going to be working its way into a very favorable environment. Sea surface temperatures still well above the average for early October in the middle and upper 80s, which is going to help the system gain some strength and quickly. Right now, at Category 2 status, maximum sustained winds around 100 miles per hour is tracking to the east-southeast. 8 miles per hour, and it is going to get up to around 145 miles per hour, which would take it to Category 4 status. And it could be at Category 4 regardless, though. It's going to be a major hurricane before making landfall somewhere between Tampa and the Fort Myers area as we get into Wednesday evening. The system will eventually kick off the coast of the southeast as a post-tropical cyclone by the time we get towards Friday morning, but we're expecting some significant impacts once again across Florida with some serious storm surge, heavy rain, and some strong winds. So now is the time to prepare if you live in the Sunshine State. Bree?
All right, Ramel, thank you very much. Today marks 1 year since Hamas militants attacked Israel. The October 7th rampage triggering a year of war in Gaza, leading to more than 40,000 Palestinian deaths. The conflict has destabilized the Middle East and raised the prospect of an all-out regional war. Spectrum's national reporter Evan Kozloff has more.
October 7th, 2023. Israelis woke up to the sound of air raid sirens and rockets in the air. Hamas militants stormed the border, killing just under 1,200 Israelis, most of them innocent civilians. They also took hundreds of hostages, including men, women, and children, many of them still being held today. The response from Israel was swift, launching a barrage of airstrikes into Gaza and starting a total blockade. Just a week and a half later, President Joe Biden arrives in Israel, sharing an emotional hug with the longtime leader.
While you feel that rage, don't be consumed by it.
In late October, Israel launched a fierce ground assault into Gaza, targeting Hamas strongholds. Palestinians in northern Gaza were forced to flee south to get away from the fighting as the humanitarian crisis got worse. In late November, Israel and Hamas agreed to what would become a 7-day ceasefire, agreeing to exchange Palestinian prisoners for the release of dozens of hostages, leading to emotional reunions like this one, where 9-year-old Emily Hand was released back to her family and into the arms of her father. But this break would be short-lived. By December 1st, the fighting continued in Gaza. After a year of war, the Gaza Health Ministry says more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed. The longer the conflict goes on, the more protests we've seen in Israel, as many hostage families have called for an end to the war to bring their loved ones home.
And while the main focus of this war has been on Gaza and Hamas, Israel has long been battling with other Iran-backed militant groups, including in Lebanon, where they've been trading rocket fire with Hezbollah since the very beginning of this war.
This conflict with Hezbollah escalating last month when Israel exploded thousands of pagers and other communications devices belonging to Hezbollah members before launching thousands of airstrikes in Lebanon, including one which killed Hezbollah's leader. This killing prompting Iran to respond with a barrage of missiles just last week. Guy Ziv, a professor of international relations at American University, says there's now growing concern that Israel and Iran could be on a collision course for direct conflict.
It's always been a shadow war, right? But what we've seen just in the last couple of weeks alone is that Israel has significantly degraded the capabilities of Iran's proxies.
A year of war since the October 7th attack, a day that changed the course of history in Israel and across the globe. In Washington, I'm Evan Kozloff, Spectrum News.
Presidential candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on the campaign trail this weekend. Coming up here on Spectrum News, Trump's return to the site of his first assassination attempt as Harris responds to her critics. Stay with us.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
What if you never had to worry about what you could do? Because you could do anything. Anywhere could be the center of everywhere. And boundaries only existed to be pushed. So the only limit you faced was how big you could dream. What would you do then? Some pretty cool stuff, I bet. Yeah, that'd be some life. That'd be life unlimited.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's pre-diabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute pre-diabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with you on this Monday morning. It's been a little over a week since Hurricane Helene made landfall along the Big Bend of Florida as a powerful Category 4 hurricane, brought impacts throughout the state of Florida and across the southeast for that matter, and we're still recovering in many of those locations. As we get into the day on Wednesday, we're going to have to get ready for yet another powerful hurricane set to bring some significant impacts to the state of Florida. This is Hurricane Milton in the Gulf of Mexico as it continues to move eastward. It's going to pick up some strength. Start to see that well-defined eye poking out at the center of the storm, a sign that this is going to continue to gain some strength rather quickly. It is expected to be at major hurricane status just before making landfall somewhere along the western coast of Florida. Moving into a cool environment. Sea surface temperatures are in the middle and upper 80s, which is really going to help the system gain some strength over the next 24 to 30 hours. So now is the time to prepare if you live in the Sunshine State. Expecting some significant rainfall, storm surge, and some strong winds for that matter as well, all across the state. And a lot of this rainfall is going to be just to the north of Tampa, all the way down into the southern part of Florida as well, where we could see anywhere between 6 to 12 inches of rainfall. The good news is the storm is expected to move pretty quickly off the coast, and by Thursday morning, this is going to be over the Atlantic. But overall, now is a good time to be prepared for some flooding concerns across south central Florida. We have flash flood watches in effect from Tampa all the way down into the Florida Keys until Thursday morning. So for the next couple of days, we're going to be dealing with some flooding concerns, and we have rain in the forecast throughout the day today, which does not help with the rainfall totals that are going to be with Hurricane Milton. So flooding is going to be a major concern in any event for flooding. You definitely want to turn around, don't drown. You hear meteorologists say it all the time. But rule number 1 for flash flood safety, get to higher ground. Do not attempt to drive through flooded roadways or attempt to drive around barricades. It just takes 6 inches of water to move a human being. And as we get into the next couple of days, we're also watching a couple other systems out in the Atlantic Ocean for tropical development. I'll have more details on that coming up in 10 minutes.
9 days to go before Election Day, and this week the campaigns are out in full force. Spectrum's national reporter Angie Gonzalez has more on what former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are taking on in the days ahead.
Former President Donald Trump kicks off the week with events in Florida. Tuesday, he's taking part in a roundtable with Latino leaders in Miami and will later participate in a town hall geared towards undecided Latino voters on Univision. Vice President Kamala Harris will do her own town hall with the Spanish television network later this week from Las Vegas. Over the weekend, Harris was in North Carolina getting a closer look at the response effort to Hurricane Helene. Sunday, she sat down for an interview on the Call Her Daddy podcast, which is popular among young women. She said this of recent claims from Trump that he's a protector of women.
This is the same guy who said that women should be punished for having abortions?
Trump made those comments in 2016, and his campaign later clarified them, saying that doctors, not women, should be punished if Congress makes abortion illegal. It's just one part of a media blitz for Harris, in which she'll also do interviews on Howard Stern, The View, Colbert, and with 60 Minutes, which airs tonight. Trump backed out of a similar interview with CBS and Saturday returned to the site where a gunman tried to take his life back in July.
I would like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence.
There, Trump honored Corey Comparator, who was killed at his July 13th rally. In Wisconsin Sunday, Trump continued to make false claims about the federal response to Hurricane Helene.
Kamala Harris has left them stranded. This is the worst response to a storm or a catastrophe or a hurricane that we've ever seen, ever.
His administrator was among those Sunday trying to set the record straight.
When you have this dangerous rhetoric you're hearing, it creates fear in our own employees. We need to make sure we're getting help to the people who need it.
Several Republicans who represent areas hard hit by the hurricane continue to say that they are getting the resources they need to help people on the ground. In Washington, Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
Front Porch Politics continuing its trek across America. Tim is traveling the country from New York to LA, stopping in battleground states along the way. He woke up in Albuquerque this morning and will wrap up the day in Flagstaff, Arizona. Tim joins us from Albuquerque, where he had one of the more unique interviews of his career.
Well, good to see you. I can tell you we did one thing today I never thought I'd do in my career, and that is talk about politics at 3,000 feet in an air balloon, but that is exactly what we did. It looks different behind me now. There's still a lot of people here, but this morning there was tens of thousands of people out here for the International Air Balloon Fiesta in beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is gorgeous out today, and this is an annual event that brings out almost 1 million people over the 8-9 days of its run, almost 600 balloons up there. You know, New Mexico does not have battleground state status, and you know, we did not see a lot of political signs around here, no question about it, but it is sort of still weighing on the people here. We're going to talk to a ton of people, but when we were in the air, we started talking to our pilot. We had such a great conversation. An hour and a half later, we finally landed, and it was time to get on the road again. But we did talk to the pilot to ask him, you know, what is the election like here in New Mexico right now, and what's on his mind?
It's probably as divisive as it's been since I've been alive.
Along the arroyo to
and it's
Alameda.
Tragic. It's tragic, even within our own community. I'm not interested in single issue politics. That doesn't matter to me. I think single issue politics is bad for the U.S., right? And if people spend more time thinking about their neighbors and what's best for the community, even if that means something you want, you can't have, that's better for our communities that way.
Boy, just an experience we will never forget. It's such a great conversation. We thank the pilot for spending some time with us. We got to hit the road again. We are going to Flagstaff, Arizona tonight. And tomorrow we head to Las Vegas, Nevada, Arizona, Nevada, battleground states. I think we're going to see a different mood there, no question, than what we've seen in Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico. By Tuesday, we hope to end our trip at the Santa Monica Pier. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, Tim Boyle, Spectrum News.
LeBron James making some more NBA history over the weekend, though it's not something he'll be able to add to his stats. The full story for you is ahead here on Spectrum News.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Never have to worry about thinking too big? Because you have a connection that's ready for anything. That's Life Unlimited. That's Spectrum.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/act now.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you know big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right seat.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. We are watching Hurricane Milton very closely, and it continues to gain some strength, approaching major hurricane status with maximum sustained winds right now around 100 miles per hour, and we're getting gusts around 120 miles per hour in the outer eye wall as well. This system is just to the northwest of the Yucatan Peninsula at Category 2 status, going to become a major hurricane sometime today, and it will likely peak in intensity at Category 4 status. Maximum sustained winds around 145 miles per hour. As we get closer to landfall, though, this is going to be a major hurricane somewhere near Tampa and Fort Myers, and the latest track does take the system a little bit closer to Tampa as we transition into Wednesday evening. After that, the system moves off the coast of the southeast, and it's going to stay over the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean. So this is going to be a one-day event. By the time we get towards Thursday and Friday, this is going to be a post-tropical cyclone working its way further and further away from the southeast coast. But now is the time to prepare if you live in the Sunshine State. We are expecting some significant impacts with heavy rainfall leading to flooding, storm surge, and some heavy winds likely going to lead to some power outages. Outside of Hurricane Milton, we have Kirk and Leslie, which are out in the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean, not causing us any issues with the exception of some rip currents along the eastern coast. But Leslie will continue to weaken over the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean, and Kirk is going to become a post-tropical cyclone as well. Back here home stateside, and especially in the West Coast, it's been hot over the last several days, feeling like summer for the first week of October, and that heat's not going anywhere anytime soon. We've got heat advisories to the, just to the north of San Francisco, down towards the southern part of the state where we have excessive heat warning stretching into Arizona and parts of Nevada as well. So another day to find ways to stay cool, limit time outdoors if you can. Temperatures still continue to run about 5 to 10 plus degrees above the average. We're going to reach 107 in Phoenix today, near 90 in Los Angeles. How about the low 70s from Kansas City to St. Louis? Nice and comfortable for this time of year. In the upper 60s up in the Ohio Valley later today, upper 50s even up towards Portland, Maine as we get into the second half of the day. As we transition into Tuesday, though, we're going to see that comfortable weather to work its way further eastward as a cold front pushes off the coast, and we do have a nice stretch of weather in store for us for the eastern half of the United States with below normal temperatures. However, from the northern plains to the west coast, our temperatures are going to be running anywhere between 15 to 20 plus degrees above the average for this time of year. So how about that 3-day forecast for Portland, Maine? Looking and feeling pretty good, much cooler with highs in the upper 50s and the low 60s with a good deal of sunshine.
Well, if you're just joining us or heading out the door, here's a look at what you need to know. Florida is preparing for its second major hurricane in 2 weeks. Hurricane Milton is strengthening as it moves closer to the United States. It's expected to make landfall Wednesday as at least a Category 3 hurricane. Today marks 1 year since the October 7th attack in Israel. 1,200 were killed and hundreds more were captured. Overnight, the Israeli military says it launched a wave of artillery and airstrikes to thwart what it said was an imminent attack. And presidential nominees Donald Trump and Kamala Harris campaigning with just 29 days to go in the presidential election. The candidates have been traveling back and forth to a handful of swing states. This week, former President Donald Trump is taking part in events in Florida, while Vice President Kamala Harris is appearing this week in Las Vegas and on multiple TV and radio interviews. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. A recent report by the Anti-Defamation League shows there has been more than 100,000 anti-Semitic incidents in the United States since the October 7th attack. That's the highest number of incidents in a one-year period. The ADL reports that number represents a 200% increase from the previous year. Of the 10,000 incidents, at least 1,200 happened on college campuses. The ADL expects the preliminary figures to increase as more reports are filed. The final data on 2024 will be released in the spring of 2025. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg announcing $100 million in emergency aid to help repair and rebuild the damaged or destroyed infrastructure in the wake of Hurricane Helene. Buttigieg calling the 9-figure sum an initial round of funding to get roads in hard-hit North Carolina repaired and reopened quickly. Damaged roads and bridges have severely hampered emergency crews' rescue and recovery efforts. The younger brother of music superstar Madonna, Christopher Ciccone, has died from cancer at the age of 63. Ciccone was an artist, author, dancer, and designer. His older sister taking to social media on Sunday to pay tribute, saying it's hard to explain our bond and that discovering dance in their small Midwestern town had saved them both. Their careers crossed many times as Madonna rose to fame in the 1980s. Ciccone was featured as a dancer in music videos and directing his own, the likes of Dolly Parton and Tony Bennett. On the lighter side this morning, you may catch a glimpse of a meteor shower during its peak tonight. The Draconid meteor shower is expected to peak tonight into tomorrow morning. The Draconid is one of the most well-known meteor showers. Some years it can bring more than 1,000 meteors per hour. Basketball legend LeBron James making more NBA history last night.
And here we go. We've been waiting for it. It is the preseason, but LeBron James and LeBron James Jr. are on the floor at the same time.
James and his son Bronny becoming the first father-son duo to play in an NBA game together as they took the court against the Phoenix Suns in a preseason matchup. 39-year-old James has repeatedly insisted that Bronny can't call him dad on the court. The pair played for several minutes together on what coincidentally was also Bronny James's 20th birthday. And you can always stay connected with us here at Spectrum News by getting your national and local headlines on the go. Just download the free Spectrum News app. It's available in the App Store and on Google Play. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for joining us. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation, balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum Enterprise, we give over 80% of the Fortune 500 the technology solutions they need to meet their growing business demands. Whether it's ultra-fast connectivity, seamless transactions, safe and secure data, or reliable always-on technology, these businesses demand better, and we're here to deliver it. Get a network you can rely on with our 100% uptime SLA guarantee.
Sometimes in life, in order to move forward, it helps to look back. To learn from the pioneers and trailblazers.
To gain inspiration from those who came before us.
to show us what it means to act with empathy and to show that love has no labels.
Join WWE and Love Has No Labels throughout the year in celebrating people from all communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels, that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say.
Save it. It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at WeSaySaveIt.org.